Hello friends, welcome to the second PS1 Racing Challenge recap. In this video I will be casting an eye back to the second phase of the challenge, specifically games 51 to 100, to pick out some highlights and lowlights. So here we go. First off, we've got the best game, which is Ridge Racer Type 4. Quite often, games of this generation do not live up to the nostalgia, but for Ridge Racer Type 4, the opposite happened and I enjoyed it more now as an adult than I did as a child. The gameplay is tight and the races are well scripted and paced to ensure that you should be catching the leader on the final lap. Whilst this artificial pacing may frustrate some purists, I like it because it ensures an interesting race every time by both preventing you running away at the start and lapping alone, or the opposite problem of being frustrated by harsh rubber banding. The addition of stories for each of the teams helps bring the game alive too, as well as encouraging players to try different difficulties. The narrative is simply and stylishly delivered between races in a conversation format that adds to the game without being overly imposing or distracting from the racing itself. What I really love about Ridge Racer Type 4 is that it's a full package. By that I mean we have great gameplay, we have a good selection of beautiful and entertaining tracks with a variety of visual styles, we have the aforementioned story building up the Type 4 world, and we have an excellent bespoke made soundtrack that's just dripping with cool. The soundtrack feels important to me, as this generation is when soundtracks of licensed music started becoming common. While licensed soundtracks can be awesome, Burnout 3 anyone, I feel this simple option has discouraged more racing game developers from properly investing in their own music and audio styles, and that feels like a massive shame to me. Anyway, I'm going off piste. I have very little to criticise about this game. I said the gameplay was tight earlier. The handling did feel a bit flaky until I properly figured it out at least. My main criticism is that the game was unfortunately too short. Completing it on one difficulty can be done in under 90 minutes, meaning that you can probably win with all 4 teams in about 6 hours. This game bangs and I wanted more of it. Next up, I'm going to talk about the worst game, Circuit Beat. Oh look, it's Ridge Racer from Wish. There's gonna be a lot of complaining here. The handling's bad, the cars have ridiculous grip and cornering speed. A slight lift of the throttle will pretty much point you at the inside wall of a corner. The high-speed cornering combines badly with the rigid camera. Seeing through the corners is near impossible, requiring you to memorise the tracks in order to navigate them at a winning pace, particularly when you unlock the Formula car. The graphics are also bad. The tracks are okay in places, but mostly bland. The cars are simple and have pretty ugly paint schemes. Finally, the game is quite difficult. So much the races are flat out, you will not be able to gain time on the opponents in those sections. This means that there's little opportunity to make a difference. That also means that mistakes are difficult to recover from. Funnily, lap times were only recorded to 1/3 of a tenth of a second, as the timing slots of the frame rate. Reminiscing about this game isn't fun, so I'll try and wrap it up. The car's bad, the music's bad, collisions are bad, the game's bad. Avoid it. Next up, we have the best surprise of the block, which is Art Truck Battle 2. I like things that are cool and different, and this game ticks both of those boxes. The game is based on the Japanese trucker culture of decoratura, where truckers decorate their trucks with incredibly elaborate paint schemes, lights and accessories. So naturally the game is absolutely packed with customization options for your truck. The gameplay is different to other racing games too. Rather than having full steering control, the directional buttons will turn on indicators with the first press and instigate a lane change with the second. The races play as tactical duels, where you attempt to beat your rival by being better at weaving through traffic and using slipstreaming and blocking. It's pretty fun, but the simple steering mechanic does mean that the gameplay lacks depth. The game does have a narrative too, however the language barrier prevented me from fully enjoying this aspect. With the simple gameplay in mind, the 4-hour playtime felt about right. It looked good, had a great soundtrack too, it's worth checking out. And now we move on to the biggest disappointment, Motortoon Grand Prix 2. Now, I'm not here to say that Motortoon Grand Prix 2 is a bad game, because it's not. When I heard that the developers of Gran Turismo had done kart-style races beforehand, I was excited to try it out. And it is a very good game. It looks good and it plays nicely. It's just criminally short. I played through the campaign twice in an hour, with time to spare. What a shame. I've covered my main categories, now I'm going to add an honourable mention and a couple of dishonourable mentions. For the honourable mention, we have Gran Turismo 2. There's no way I could do this video without mentioning Gran Turismo 2. I'd get lynched. I'll just start by saying, unequivocally, that this is a great game. I think it's fair to say that this game and its predecessor changed racing games forever. So many racing games prior to this were just a sequence of events to beat with a minimal selection of vehicles, and the arrival of the Gran Turismo series compelled other racing game developers to think more about what their game should be, how it's structured, and how players are meant to progress. The cars handle well, they sound good, the graphics are great, and the volume of content available is still impressive today. I particularly enjoy the license challenges, a great set of tests of skill that I found really entertaining. Unfortunately though, this isn't a flawless game. The AI cars won't really acknowledge your existence, they'll just run the race, and this makes the racing feel a bit lifeless at times. My second point is that the upgrade system discourages excellence in the player. If you find a challenging race, it's usually quicker just to buy some upgrades and take an easy win than it is to really push yourself to get better. This is a difficult issue to resolve without severely restricting the player freedom that's so important to Gran Turismo, as balancing the AI to match your car performance would make upgrades pointless, but the current situation means that the game is often too easy. Despite this, Gran Turismo 2 remains a fantastic game that is well worth a play. If you're emulating, you should also have a look into some of the fantastic mods that are now available. I'll put links in the video description. Dishonourable mention 1 is actually 3 in 1. XS Airboat Racing / ATV Racers / Miracle Space Race. I'm pooling these games together as they're just reskins of the same base game. They're very basic kart races, they're not unpleasant but they're not particularly interesting or challenging, and each one can be beaten in about half an hour. It's just bland shovelware. And my other dishonourable mention is Hooters Road Trip. There are two things worth mentioning about this game. Most importantly, the gameplay itself is bad. The cars handle terribly and will swing wildly from side to side. Add to this the very awkward videos of Hooters girls welcoming you to towns and cheering your results. It just makes a bad game weird. So there we have it, the end of another recap. Why not take a moment to tell me in the comments just how wrong I am? I'm still having good fun with the challenge, which is good news because we've still got over 200 games to go. So yeah, thanks loads for watching. Why not check me out on Twitch if you haven't already? And have a great day. Bye bye.